to MMA Fancast. Welcome back to everyone who is already a subscriber to the YouTube channel. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe so you can see more great interviews. My name is Luke Payson. I am super excited to have a friend of mine back on the show. She has been on the show a bunch, and I am pumped. She is now an undefeated professional MMA fighter with a really impressive submission win for her pro debut, CFFC, just a few days ago, is the current head women's wrestling coach for Waynesburg University. I call her coach. She goes by the fight nickname, the Mail Woman. Her name is Karli Jo Thomas. Coach Karli Jo, the Mail Woman, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Luke. It's good to see you.
It's always great to see you. Congratulations. We had you on the show just before, a couple days before your pro debut fight. Really impressive. You went down to CFFC in Atlantic City. So before we get to the fight, because thanks to you and to your team and how talented you are, the fight didn't last really long, just over 2 minutes in the first round. We'll get to that. But before, how was going on the road? How was getting down to Atlantic City? At one point, Atlantic City really was one of the fight capitals of the world prior to the modernization of some of the casinos and people gambling. But I grew up with a time where Atlantic City was a big deal, casino-wise and all that. So how was it getting to Atlantic City? How was CFFC? How was the environment even before your fight?
It was really cool, fighting away from home like that far away. It was super cool fighting right at the beach. We got to go out on the beach Saturday morning before the fight and do our shakeout and stuff, which was honestly one of my favorite parts of the weekend. I love the ocean and the water and all that stuff, so that was really cool for me. CFFC was awesome. The cage was huge. It was a circle, which was super cool. Instead of your traditional octagon. So I really love that. Everybody the whole entire promotion was ran very, very professional. So I'm just so grateful to have an opportunity like that so soon. I think I said that on the show last time I was on, but yeah, I got to give a big shout out to Justin for driving me out there on Thursday. It was raining the entire way there. I was cutting weight, so I was definitely not driving. So big thank you to him for making that trip out there in the rain and stuff. But yeah, I mean the whole entire weekend it was I was definitely living my dream.
Yeah, there was a lot of things that went really well. But when we did the fight week interview, you mentioned, of course, your boyfriend Justin, the General Patton. And I always like to call him the second most handsome man in MMA, only because I called Ethan the Wolverine Goss the most handsome man in MMA prior. So they're tied for most handsome men in MMA. But anyhow, you had mentioned how grateful you were not only that he was making the trip to be in your corner, but also head coach Isaac Greeley from the Mat Factory and another coach known for his boxing and striking prowess, Chris Williams. What was it also like having those two coaches? Big shout out to Justin for getting you out there early and doing the weight cut and all that. But when did they join? Did they come in Saturday morning? How did all that work, bringing your team from that far away?
Yeah, so Chris came in Friday. Chris was there for weigh-ins and everything, and then Isaac was there. Isaac got there Saturday, in the morning. So I got to see hang out with him for a little bit before the fight and stuff. But definitely having them two there's obviously means so much to me. Chris has been both of them, Isaac and Chris, both have been staples in my growth in the last I'd say 5 to 7 fights that I've had. Well, yeah, my last six, at least probably my last 6 fights, they've been a pretty big staples in my just growth. I think you could really see it if you were to watch my old fights to my most recent fights, how much I've just become more of a complete martial artist. And I really give both of them to credit for that and just really blending, my game together. So yeah, having them there, just being kind of away for the weekend with the team and stuff it's just a really fun experience. We don't always get to do that very often. I kind of mentioned that before. It's, so just having that weekend away with them, going out to get the win, and kind of just displaying all of my skills, and not all of my skills, but all of what they've with what they've helped create over the last how many years. I got to show all aspects of my game on Saturday night, which was really, really, I think, special for everybody to kind of see. You know, how so.
Well, and talking about the fight as it happened, your last amateur fight was against Kaylani, who was 7-0 at the time. You took on a really high level amateur fight for your last fight. She's actually going pro. I'm hoping to have her back on the show to talk about her going pro. I think you know that that's going to be in June. That's very exciting. But not only did you take a really tough last amateur fight in an undefeated lady that most people probably would have gone pro. Shout out to her for taking the fight. Obviously, it was a great matchup. It pushed her to become better, pushed you to become better. Win-win, really. And you guys, I think, have kind of struck up a friendship after that. So it's all good. But you come off taking a very tough last amateur opponent in a lady who was 7-0 as an amateur. And then you agree to fight Lateesha, the Honey Badger Mohl, who I've had on the show. She's a great person to follow as well, but she was 2-0, undefeated as a pro MMA fighter. So that's also a step up as a pro debuter. Why say yes to that? And what was it like going into the cage knowing that if you get the win, you've started your pro MMA career in a big way, as opposed to fighting somebody who was maybe 0-1, 0-2. Not that that would be bad, but obviously your first debut to be against a 2-0. How much kind of mindset did you have about that coming into it?
Yeah, I've been just a really big believer. Kind of my whole career is like the harder fights that I can take, the harder it's gonna push me to prepare to the best of my ability. I think I try to put everybody at the same, I guess level, you would say. I want to think everybody's training as hard as I am or even harder than me, so that's going to push me. But I definitely can say when you're fighting somebody who could very well beat you, it just gives you that little bit of edge in training, like to push that little extra whenever that last rep hurts, or the last three rep hurt, those last three reps hurt, or you're in that last minute of the round and you want to kind of just give up because you're exhausted, but like just not having the fighting, knowing that I'm fighting somebody that is pushing through those things to really it brings out the best in me, and that's why I do this. So it's not just to go out there and get a win; it's to go out there and just be the best that I can be. And I don't think I can do that if I'm not fighting people that are supposed to beat me.
That
That's
makes
kind of how I think about it.
that makes a lot of sense. Your fight, the way you approach fighting, makes a lot of sense. You know that about yourself, so it becomes a strength to be able to take on and say
Yeah.
yes to obviously very talented fighters. And some debut fighters would have avoided Lateesha due to her record and the role she was on. And obviously that's a shout out to her, but it's also a shout out to you to take that fight. So let's talk about the fight itself. Didn't last overly long because you got the submission by guillotine a little over 2 minutes in. But before the submission, kind of talk to me about how it was going. How were you feeling in there? And then walk us through how you got to the submission.
Yeah, so we had some exchanges on the feet. Really like just throwing kind of like a lot of like I was trying to just find my range, kind of see what she was throwing, how she's reacting off some of my shots. I threw a left hand and I felt like I hurt her a little bit, and I kind of engaged off of that and landed a couple more shots, and I shot off of my that kind of exchange there. I recognized she was hurt, and I'm still kind of learning how to, if I do hurt somebody on the feet, how to kind of finish that without rushing the situation, which I, we even learned in this fight. I'm still working on that, but ultimately I was able to get the takedown off of that exchange and secure that, and work to the submission through that. But yeah, it was something that I was, like I mentioned earlier, just I really got to show, I feel like, kind of my whole game, which was super super cool for me to do.
Well, talk about some of the adjustments you made. It's officially a guillotine. It started off a bit different. It started off more as a ninja choke. So just talk about how your arms were originally positioned and then kind of the adjustments that you made. Jiu-jitsu, really striking is all about adjustments too, but jiu-jitsu is a lot about adjustments and tightening things and loosening things depending on what you're getting or what you're not getting. So kind of walk us through kind of what you were thinking about and adjusting your hands all the way through what started off as a ninja choke and finished up as a guillotine.
Yeah, so she was actually starting to work up back up to her feet, and in the scramble back to our feet, I was able to catch her neck with my one arm and lock up that ninja choke. But I kind of just didn't have the angle quite right on it, and I'm still working on perfecting that choke in training actually. So, it's just a work in progress, but I just kind of felt like I just didn't quite have it, so I decided to switch up my grip to keep control of the neck, and I was kind of debating on whether to use it to take her back down to the mat or kind of where to transition from there, because I actually felt like I was kind of losing the position, and she actually ended up trying to like death roll out of it, which I think actually locked it up, the guillotine itself up tighter, and I was able to finish it from the mat from there. So um the finish was definitely really, I did not expect that at all. Actually, that wasn't the submissions we were working in training for this fight or anything like that, but I guess that's just a testament to just the extensive grappling that we're doing at the Mat Factory. It's just I was just kind of just flowing through um my game, really just what I do every single day. So
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And thanks for giving us the kind of the behind the scenes. It's one of those things about any type of martial arts, train it and drill it to the point where it's not, that wasn't even a primary submission or a primary
yeah.
thought coming into it. That's what people would
Mhm.
call muscle memory or kind of overtrained to the point where it's just there. And also the
Yeah.
timing, the timing of some of the openings. That's what I often think of as you've progressed and as people at the Mat Factory progress in belt ranking. It's really about a lot of the same things are being used, but the timing is faster, the openings are tighter, as the skill level increases. So really, really impressive. So given the fact that it was a bit of a surprise to you, how quickly it came, and the fact that it wasn't really the primary submission you were thinking about, and then it happened, when she tapped, was there a mental delay of like, oh my goodness, this is real life? When did the emotions hit as far as winning by submission in your pro debut against an incredibly talented, best wishes and best skills to Lateesha,
Yeah.
the Honey Badger Mohl? I really believe that you guys will both continue up the ranks. You just had to fight each other very early in your careers, but a very significant win over a very tough opponent, previously undefeated. When did it feel real, and kind of what was the emotions like when the ref stopped it after the tap?
Yeah, it was kind of funny. Like I really didn't like kind of believe it for a little while. Like I kept asking like Isaac, I'm like, was that really it? Like it was like, I mean this in no disrespect, but like it was that easy because like I wasn't even sweating. Like I was like I had so much respect for Lateesha going into the fight, and I know how good of a fighter she is and how tough she is. Like, when I was ready for 15 minutes of like war with her, So when it happened the way it did, I was very like I couldn't believe it for a while. It was honestly till like after I left the cage and like went and sat down in the back that I kind of like relaxed a little bit and kind of was like, yeah, like that, like, yeah, that just happened. Like, I just went out there and just did what I do every single day. And, it's kind of just fruit of the labor, if is that what they call it? So, yeah.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, and it really brings up the obvious thought that you prepared and trained for 15 full minutes. You got just over 2 minutes against a very talented person. And now that momentum, that training, the skills that you developed to fight Lateesha is now just in your tool belt, as we like to say, for the next one. So I'm not going to bring up the next fight. This has just been less than a week. You're on vacation. You were nice enough to come on. You're relaxing and decompressing from the fight and all that. But obviously, in the future, I can't wait to have you back on to talk about what's future. But to you, what is the real takeaway? Maybe the moment that stands out. You already talked about the fun and the enjoyment of doing a shakeout on the beach. You're not always going to have that. The excitement, obviously, of your first ever pro win. But what's like the one takeaway about yourself or about the experience that you're going to remember as you kind of think through this process?
Honestly, for this fight, for me, it was about. I mean, I feel so much support in all of my fights, but this fight, I really felt just so much support from people in all stages of my life, like Nick and AJ. My first coaches came out to see me fight. Some of my sponsors did. My from Monarch Hospice and JV Rigging, Rich did, Zach, Joe, their wives and stuff all came out to see me. My strength and conditioning coach and his wife, Jaeger Sports Performance. Him, Rocco and Lauren, they came out to see me fight. Some other people, my friend Liv came out. So my family, of course, mom and dad, my sister, her husband, just having all those people there. Lucas and Selena were actually out there, so they got to see me fight too because Lucas grappled.
He's grappling.
Excuse me. So really just having so many people support me, and all my sponsors and stuff throughout the camp. I really felt so much love this fight in particular. So that was probably one of my biggest takeaways. Aside from everything else, there was very many aspects that was awesome. So.
Well, that I think is one of the things that makes you very special is not only a very talented fighter, because there's the fight side, but the relationship side, the human side, all the connections, all the many people that support you, some of them from afar, obviously, the pay-per-views and stuff like that, but everybody that made the trip. I remember when you came on Fight Week, you were really, before we recorded, you wanted to make really sure that you got to all of your sponsors coming into your fight week because of how grateful you are to them, the relationships that you have with all the various sponsors, and then some of those sponsors coming out, but also just all the support that you have. So glad, Nick Nyquil Brown has been a great guy to come on the show several times. And I think we've both been youth pastors or youth leaders at church. So we have that connection. He's just an incredible brother in Christ, an incredible guy. So it's kind of nice to hear that he was able to make the trip as your original coach to support you from the All-American MMA gym. So, well, just incredible. Really a big congratulations to you. I've had back on the show, coming fresh off her guillotine submission win over a very talented opponent at CFFC just under a week ago, is the male woman herself, Coach Karli Jo Thomas. Thanks so much for coming on. My name's Luke Payson, as always. Thanks a lot.